organize for it. Stay up in the night and in the morning, I'ma rise for it. Heart for it, mind for it, ears for it, eyes for it, peace and a place on this earth for me and mine for it. Work for it, ride for it, I'ma organize for it. Stay up in the night and in the morning, I'ma rise for it. Heart for it, mind for it, ears for it, eyes for it, peace and a place on this earth for me and mine for it.
Hello, peace. Thanks for tuning in to the Money, Power, Land, Solidarity podcast. Today, we're marking the beginning of Season 2. We released the first episode of this podcast about a year ago in the fall of 2019 to cover the Upper Harbor Terminal redevelopment. This is 48 acres of public land on the North Minneapolis riverfront, where the city has granted exclusive rights to the billionaire developer United Properties. Our intention was then, and continues to be, to look closely at the Upper Harbor Terminal development, to use the Upper Harbor as a window into how capitalism works to reproduce inequality and poverty, race and class hierarchy, and to explore some of the issues connected to the Upper Harbor Terminal development that impact the working class communities in North and Northeast Minneapolis and beyond. We released a 13-episode first season of the show at the end of 2019, and then we went into production for Season 2 at the start of 2020. We dropped a few bonus episodes and then released a whole series of episodes covering the COVID-19 pandemic in Minneapolis and the uprising that took place in the wake of the murder of George Floyd. And today, we find ourselves with 31 episodes on our feed as we start Season 2. We have reached the home stretch of the Upper Harbor Terminal planning process, and the final coordinated plan for the redevelopment will go to the City Council for a vote this fall. It's looking like in late October or early November. So we're going to dive back into our coverage of the Upper Harbor Terminal. We're going to keep looking closely at the plan and at the process, and also continuing to use the Upper Harbor Terminal to get a better understanding of how we can organize an alternative to this capitalist exploitation and gentrification. We have some great interviews lined up for Season 2 that I can't wait for you to hear. We've also prepared some episodes digging deeper into housing policy, into the local political and economic landscape, and we're also going to do our best to report in real time on the development as it goes to the City Council. The team responsible for bringing you the Money, Power, Land, Solidarity podcast is myself, Jake Verdon, GP Jacob, our extraordinary producer, Isaac Spector, and our creative collaborator and coordinator, Deanna Siegel Garcia. We are really honored to have you as a listener. We're really excited about the show, and we want to say thank you to all of our Patreon subscribers, everyone who has rated the show, who's left a review, or who spread a word to a friend. If you haven't yet, please consider subscribing to our Patreon page. You could become a bread level subscriber at $2 a month, a butter level subscriber at $5 a month, or you could join our brand new cheese level subscription at $10 a month, and that'll get you access to exclusive merchandise, to some gift bags and goodies, and also to some bonus content. We really appreciate it, and together we want to continue to build this rank and file, frontline, anti-racist, left-wing socialist media in the Twin Cities and beyond. Thanks again for joining us. I'll present to you with no further ado the opening of Season 2, the Upper Harbor Terminal, a struggle for land and the future. What to do with 48 acres of public land on the Northside riverfront. The Upper Harbor Terminal redevelopment is a microcosm of the politics of Minneapolis, a microcosm of the power dynamics that dictate the conditions of life for residents in this city. 48 acres. Land is the basis for wealth. Land is the foundation for freedom and autonomy. Land enclosures were one of the principal methods of primitive accumulation that established the capitalist class. The forcible removal of people from the land, the fencing off of land, the claiming ownership over land, making illegal communal farming, hunting, and foraging, charging rent for access to the land, and following through with the threat of violence for non-payment of rent. Land enclosure. The proletarianization of masses of people, removing us from any means of living, accessing food, clothing, and shelter, other than through selling our labor for a wage. The creation of landless people and the reduction of land to its ability to produce profit for the so-called owner. These violent processes of land privatization and commodification are at the foundation of the capitalist economy. The system of settler colonialism that created the United States is an extension of that process of land enclosure and privatization in the pursuit of surplus value. The European capitalist class saw the land now known as North America as nothing more than unrealized profits. Rich soil that could produce commodity crops, dense woods to be turned into lumber, vast acres to be conquered, enclosed, owned, and exploited, land to be urbanized and commodified, developed for optimum rent extraction. In 1862, the 48 acres on the banks of the Mississippi River now being planned for redevelopment as the Upper Harbor was stolen by the U.S. government in the fraudulent Treaty of Traverse des Sioux. In that one instance, 35 million acres were taken through violence and coercion by the U.S. government from the Dakota people at 12 cents an acre. Money that, through the coordinated effort of the capitalist class and settler military, went to white merchants and land speculators like Henry Sibley and Alexander Fairbolt. The real estate industry is the unbroken outgrowth of these original acts of violent appropriation. In the modern day conflict and negotiations over land ownership, the city of Minneapolis has acted exactly as could be expected. The city has chosen to turn over the 48 acres of publicly held land and exclusive rights to develop to United Properties, real estate titan owned by the billionaire Pohlad family, taking another step on the path of enclosure and private accumulation. The Upper Harbor Terminal is yet another contest for land, an attempt by the ruling class to enclose and profit, an attempt by the landless proletariat to protect and to steward. Beneath all the attempts to dress up the Upper Harbor Terminal in florid, highly processed social justice language by Democratic Party elites and real estate interests, the Upper Harbor Terminal is a raw battle for land. And the truth of the United Properties First Avenue development proposal is the transferal of public wealth into the hands of an already wealthy and powerful owning class, a consolidation of wealth, a further investment in inequality. Any attempt to create a new economic arrangement, to rid ourselves of the poverty, insecurity, and inequality that reigns in Minneapolis and across the nation, is going to be rooted in these struggles over land. It's about land ownership, land stewardship, land access, and land use. The Upper Harbor Terminal is a window into these dynamics. It can be our teacher, and it can be a turning point if we choose to make it so. The core matter is land, and any transfer of land and development rights to the oligarch class is unacceptable. Over the years, I've heard several inspiring and coherent alternative visions put forward. Some rooted in collective ownership, manifesting as an integrated, ecologically sound farm and school and cooperative business. I've also heard alternative visions for a capitalist development based on light industry and urban agriculture. I've heard other visions for an entire 48 acres of protected park space, and I'm sure there are many more out there. To be clear, there are no easy answers for the questions of ownership and stewardship of land at the core of the Upper Harbor Terminal, but I am certain that granting exclusive rights to the Billionaires United Properties is a regressive choice, and we can do something so much better. We must contest this enclosure. I started writing what I thought would be the introductory episode for season 2 of this podcast in December 2019, January 2020. Back then, we expected the plan to come back to the city council in the early spring. We had season 2 all mapped out and interviews recorded in February. I testified with others against the bonding request at the state legislature on March 10th. On March 12th, we were sent home from the office because of coronavirus. On March 17th, the state of Minnesota went into shutdown. The Upper Harbor Terminal process was put on indefinite hold. Some of my enduring memories from this winter before COVID hit was daily walking past luxury developments in various stages of construction, and daily walking past groups of people sleeping outside on the frozen ground for lack of shelter. In December, the city council voted to increase the police budget yet again after powerful organizing with clear and popular demands for divestment that turned out impressive numbers to the public hearings. We got a notice saying our rent was being raised almost $200 to start 2020. And my student debt came once again to the razor's edge of default as the latest 15-month reduced rate, $400 a month interest only with the principal capitalized on the loan deferment cycle came to a close. The pandemic poured high-octane fear and anger onto people already smoldering under pressure. And yet quarantine added an awareness of possibility, the potential for and the necessity for radical shifts and changes in new ways of living. The day that George Floyd was murdered, Isaac and I were recording with residents of the Hiawatha and Stevens encampments, hearing testimony from unsheltered people about the daily struggle to get access to water as the early summer temperatures soared. I was up late editing our audio. I crashed on the brink of exhaustion and rage. I woke up to a text that said MPD had killed a man on Chicago Avenue. I saw the video and I sobbed. Tears stayed close behind my faceplate for days. I cried in sorrow. I cried in anger. I got hit with waves of power from deep within. We got hit with waves of force from concussion grenades and let them wash over us like experienced surfers, not altering our course. We took the street. We took the intersections. We took the alleys. We took the parking lots. We took the stores. We broke the glass. We ate the bullets. We washed the tear gas off. We snuffed the tear gas out. We sent the tear gas back. We broke the windows. We burnt the buildings to the ground. We fed the block, fed the city, held our post, packed our pistols, gripped our bats, we packaged meals. Kept an ear on the scanner to spread the word. We soothed and we saluted. We took orders, we took responsibility. We commandeered a hotel. We slept in spurts, but we rose to the occasion. Did what we could do to demonstrate our love for Big Floyd, for Jamar Clark, for Fong Lee, for Terrence Franklin, for each other, and for so many more. The Upper Harbor Terminal process was resumed in July as the energy of the uprising had shifted and a more sober sense of how little might change was starting to seethe. The steady increase in police presence over the last decade is part and parcel of the capitalist project to turn the city into a space for high-end consumption and high-priced real estate. Developers like United Properties are the core of Jacob Fry's constituency, and he has been relentless in his pursuit of a larger, more well-funded police force. The Downtown Improvement Council and Chamber of Commerce, organized bodies of the property-owning real estate class, are consistently the loudest pro-police voices in the city. The dynamics of land ownership and economic development we are exploring around the Upper Harbor Terminal are also at the core of the struggle against police violence in Minneapolis. When Fong Lee was murdered in 2006, Northeast Minneapolis was being plastered by the 50 More Cops campaign that coincided with the newly declared Arts District and the early stages of recapitalization in Northeast Minneapolis. I was at Marshall Terrace Park across the river from the Upper Harbor Terminal site when I heard the news that Jamar Clark had been killed in 2015. All of the various streams that lead to our modern police force spring from battles over land and over labor. From the Royal Irish Constabulary tasked with the defense of the English plantation economy in Ireland, or slave patrols in the USA organized to defend the white supremacist plantation economy in the United States, all the way to the bounties put on Dakota people by the state of Minnesota by profiteers like Henry Sibley and Alexander Ramsey seeking to seize the land, to the corporate goon squads tasked with repressing worker organizing and controlling public space. Organizing the police out of existence requires changing the social conditions, the property relationships, and the balance of power they exist to protect. Development projects like the Upper Harbor are a theater in this war for the future. The model being pursued by United Properties, First Avenue, and the city is based on high-end consumption and maximum rent extraction to realize private profits. That leaves the masses of working and poor people cut out of the equation, surplus, to be harassed by police, moved to the suburbs, or incarcerated to feed prison budgets and forced labor contracts. We are in this to chart out a different model of land ownership, stewardship, and economic development. How could these 48 acres distribute wealth downward and reduce police pressure on poor and working people? We could have beautiful housing at rents that poor and working people can afford. Perhaps public ownership of a concert venue that recycles revenue back into the community and hires at public union wages. We could retain public ownership of the land. We could create ecologically restorative public programs that provide union jobs and remediate the effects of toxic industry. We could have light industry producing for the green economy, all the better if collectively organized and publicly owned. These examples are just scratching the surface of what is possible in a socialist development. It's been a year since we introduced season 1 of the Money, Power, Land, Solidarity podcast. A year of organizing, a year of struggle, a year of shifts, a history-making year, a turning point. And yet the city and development team are still holding tight to their plan to enclose and profit from the Upper Harbor. As we roll out season 2, the development team is preparing to bring the coordinated plan to the city council for final approval. We have some really great interviews in season 2 to help elucidate the capitalist development. We also have some essays and some reflections on local possibilities and challenges, and we're also going to be following the city council vote and organizing in real time. Since I first learned of the Upper Harbor, it has been a gut-wrenching struggle, and I expect nothing less this fall. I'm very thankful for all the people over the years who have kept this fight alive, and I am very thankful for the community of interest and solidarity that is growing around this podcast. We will fight for everything we can at the Upper Harbor, and we will take the lessons, the skills, and the relationships from this fight into the forward-looking project of a working-class, multiracial, revolutionary movement. Welcome to season 2.
Money, power, land, solidarity.
More than that.
We need money, land, solidarity. If you funny, stand very far